Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leader in rushing, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Here to talk a little Jeff Hafley news and really coaching carousel updates, as obviously news continues to trickle in. What we're going to hit on here, obviously this morning we gave you the latest update on Matt LaFleur. On the backside, we may give you a couple of other sound bites from Diana Rossini, and also we had Adam Schefter on the Pat McAfee show giving a little bit of an update there on Matt LaFleur. But we really want to key in on Jeff Hafley and the hiring process that's going on there. And obviously he's continuing to draw interest. However, I come away from today going, maybe it's wishful thinking, but I'm feeling more confident today than I was 2 days ago, 3 days ago, that Jeff Hafley might return to the Packers. Again, maybe it's wishful thinking. I want to bounce this off of everybody in the chat. Good to see you, So Turtles. Thanks for swinging through. So we're going to dive into that and get everybody's opinion on it. Before we get into it, if you would do that YouTube stuff for me, hit like, hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning into PTA, welcome. Thank you for making us a part of your day. We're not experts. We're not insiders. We're not media members. We're fans just like you talking Packers on a daily basis. So if you're looking for that type of content, hit like, hit subscribe, click the bell icon so you don't miss out on future streams. Let's waste no time at all and get into the information. So obviously the NFL hiring cycle has begun, right? You've got John Harbaugh right off the bat. It's the first head coach hired. No surprise. We knew he would probably be one of the most sought after head coaching candidates. So he lands the job out there in New York, obviously leaving the Baltimore Ravens after, I think, 18 years. Fun fact that I learned earlier today on Wildy and Tausch, he's been coaching for 18 years. He's missed the playoffs 6 of those 18 years. So there's this kind of misconception that Harbaugh is just in the playoffs every single year. I mean, you do the math. To me, I think Matt LaFleur has made the playoffs 6 out of 7 years, right? So you take it to 12 years. That means he would have made it, however many. Let's take it to 14. 12 out of 14 years Matt LaFleur would have made it. So that's closing in on the 18 years that Harbaugh's been in. Would we be okay with Matt LaFleur missing the playoffs, let's say 1 to 2 extra times since he's already been the head coach? That's kind of how I looked at that, right? It's like, wait a minute. I thought he was supposed to be the regular season king too, right? So he's missed the playoffs, like I said, 6 of the 18 years, if I remember correctly. So very, very interesting. He gets the job with the New York Giants. And this is what gives me a little bit of hope. And we're going to talk about the betting odds that aren't like through the roof great for Hafley to get a head coaching job, although he is a leading candidate for the Miami Dolphins. But typically when a team interviews a coach and they hire him, most of the time they don't let him out of the building, right? It's like, okay, this is our dude. Let's go ahead and hire him, right? So John Harbaugh prepared to be the next head coach for the New York Giants. This was earlier this morning. Diana Rossini had it first. Harbaugh canceled his scheduled interview with the Titans as his focus has shifted to New York. So typically that's what happens. You get a coaching candidate come in, they interview, both sides agree, hey, this is a fit, cancel the other visits, right? The reason I'm mentioning that is because obviously Hafley has already had an interview and he, didn't get the job right off the bat. Doesn't mean he's not going to get the job in Miami. We'll talk about it in a minute. So obviously Ian Rappaport said the Giants will spend the morning finalizing a 5-year deal with Ravens coach John Harbaugh, making him one of the NFL's highest paid coaches. But Harbaugh has accepted the job as the first opening is filled. And I think the rumor, you guys double check it, I want to say $20 million per year was what he got. So, if you want to use that as a scale on what the value for Matt LaFleur is, take it as you will there. All right, so here is the important information around Jeff Hafley. Let's kind of dive into all of it. You can find all this information over at patreon.com/PackerFan Total Access. The Miami Dolphins obviously tweeted out, we have completed an interview with Jeff Hafley for our head coaching position. So that interview is complete, and they let him leave the building. So I'm going, he must not have knocked it out of the park. It doesn't mean it was a bad interview, but he must not have knocked that out of the park for them not to go ahead and announce, all right, he's our head coach, right? And I understand it's not like a slam dunk if that's the guy they go with. There are cases where they let him out of the building. To me, it just seems like when they find that candidate they really like, that's kind of the saying everybody says, like, don't let them leave. Don't let them leave, right? Go ahead, offer them the bag, make them an offer they can't refuse type thing, right? So obviously Hafley finished that interview. Now, The Atlanta Falcons tweeted out earlier today, we have interviewed Jeff Hafley for our head coaching opening. Okay. So you hear that and you go, okay, were the Falcons blown away with the interviewing process with Jeff Hafley? You got to ask yourself that, right? Well, now we've got other information that came out. Pro Football Talk said the Steelers requested an interview with Jeff Hafley for head coach. Now, them requesting that interview obviously might kind of speed things up a little bit for the Falcons. The Falcons hear that and they go, boy, Pittsburgh. I mean, let's be honest. Steelers, that's one of those organizations, that's one of those franchises that's rooted in the history of the NFL. You'd like to think that there are most coaching candidates would love to end up in Pittsburgh, right? I know Tone Diggs on the McAfee show, big Steelers fan, always talked about that. Give me Jeff Hafley, give me Jeff Hafley. I don't know if his mind has changed here recently. Haven't watched the show in a bit, but nonetheless, that's obviously a highly touted coaching position in the National Football League. So the Steelers request an interview with Hafley. Does that speed things up for the Falcons? No news, right? No news. And we'll check the Twitter timeline before we end this show just to make sure something doesn't break. If you guys hear of anything, throw it in the chat for me, okay? Now, moving along here. Next, Pack Daddy, Ryan Schlip over at Packernet Podcast tweeted this out earlier. Poly Market on top head coaching candidates, okay? So these are the top head coaching candidates and who Poly Market thinks is most likely to land the job. Now, this is one betting site. I'm going to cross-check it with Bet Online here in just a second to give you guys that information, okay? So, with that being said, Poly Market on the top head coaching candidates. Tennessee Titans, Matt Nagy. Cleveland Browns, Mike McDaniel, okay? Steelers, Chris Shula / Brian Flores. It's tied right there for the Steelers, okay? Raiders, Brian Flores. Cardinals, Vance Joseph. Falcons, Kevin Stefanski. Ravens, Brian Flores. Dolphins, Chris Shula. So a couple things to take away from that. We've talked about, man, it'd be cool to bring B-Flow in, Brian Flores in as your defensive coordinator if he doesn't get a head coaching job. And, of course, Jeff Hafley leaves. With that being said, Brian Flores is tied for the lead with the Steelers job. I think he would be a perfect fit in Pittsburgh, to be honest with you, man. They're just kind of a defensive first franchise. At least they have been in the past, right? So Steelers, Raiders, and Ravens are making a push at Brian Flores, or at least it seems like Poly Market thinks they're going to make a really strong push there, okay? Dolphins, Chris Shula. And I went, whoa, hold up a minute. There's other sites that have Jeff Hafley in the lead there. Now, notice Chris Shula is tied with Flores for the Steelers. And then, of course, you got Chris Shula with the Dolphins now. So if the Steelers like Chris Shula, they hire him over Flores. I don't know if they will. And the fact that there's two other teams pursuing Brian Flores makes you think that maybe they could at least match an offer for Flores. So maybe Chris Shula does end up with the Steelers, right? Or maybe the Steelers look at this and go, the Raiders and the Ravens are after Flores as well. We need to up our offer. Then we need to up the ante a little bit, right? If that happens, then you can see Flores getting that job. Now, Chris Shula maybe does go to the Dolphins. However, if Shula gets the Steelers job, now Jeff Hafley, I imagine, according to Poly Market, would be in the lead on their pretenses of getting the head coaching job with the Dolphins. That makes sense. So I mention that because also when you look at Bet Online and their latest odds for the Miami Dolphins job, Jeff Hafley is actually in the lead there at plus 150, okay? Next is Mike Tomlin at plus 700. Now, immediately people will say, Tomlin said he's taking the year off. Tomlin said he's taking the year off. Money talks and BS walks, right? We say that all the time, or as Tim says, money talks and BS runs the marathon, right? So if they make an offer Mike Tomlin can't refuse, maybe he says, you know what, I ain't taking the year off. Miami, you work out a deal with Pittsburgh to do a trade, and I want to go down here to Miami. That could happen, right? But again, Hafley at plus 150, then Tomlin at plus 700. Pretty big difference in odds there, right? Mike LaFleur, believe it or not, plus 900. Matt's brother, that is the OC, I believe, with the LA Rams right now. Mike McCarthy plus 1,100. Okay, those are just some right down the line there. Now, when you jump back over to Chris Shula, because that's kind of the second best odds, right? Again, Jeff Hafley plus 150, Chris Shula plus 325. So, which one are you going to believe? Bet Online has Jeff Hafley first, Chris Shula second. Okay. Poly Market has Chris Shula first, Jeff Hafley's second. So it's kind of neck and neck there, right? So it's going to come down to Chris Shula and where he goes, right? That's essentially what it's going to come down to. If indeed Chris Shula is the Dolphins' first choice, I don't know if he is or not. The fact that John Eric Sullivan, the former Packers executive that just took the general manager job, right, is in charge, or not completely in charge, but has a lot of say in that head coaching hire, I would imagine, working hand in hand with the ownership. You'd like to think his favorite candidate will be Jeff Hafley. I got to be real, guys. I didn't expect them to let Jeff Hafley out of the building. I kind of thought John Eric Sullivan, however much pull he has down there, being a first-year GM, kind of felt like he would be the one to go, nope, no, that's our guy right there, man. Our guy is Jeff Hafley. That doesn't seem to have happened. So, again, what Ryan goes on to tweet here is Hafley's highest chance is 31% for the Falcons with 5 coaches in front of him. He's third highest in Miami at 29% behind Shula and Tomlin. Now, again, people immediately commented, let's say, well, Tomlin ain't going to coach. Okay, cool. Let's say he doesn't coach. It's still Shula in the lead there, right? So that's very, very interesting. Which one do you trust more, Bet Online or Polymarket? Either way, it kind of starting to feel like if Jeff Hafley does not get the Dolphins head coaching job, might be back in Green Bay. That's exciting to me. I don't know about you guys, but all the reports, the latest reports, and if we have time, we may jump into some of the latest reports on the floor here on the backside, but all the reports are suggesting that it's more likely Matt LaFleur stays in Green Bay. And now we're seeing there's a fairly decent chance that Jeff Hafley stays in Green Bay as well. Now you're going to run it back with Matt LaFleur as your head coach and your play caller and Jeff Hafley as your defensive coordinator. And now the question becomes, what about Bisaccia? Now, there was a report that come out earlier. I think it was, I can't remember who it was that said it. Somebody said it. I want to say it was a former player. You guys help me out in the chat if you remember who it was. Somebody said that the buzz in the building is they love Rich Bisaccia, that he's probably going to be back. I don't know, man. That seems a little far-fetched for me, but, who knows? And maybe that's a part of the negotiations. Now, it did come out earlier today. Adam Schefter, I think he said it on Get Up this morning with Greeny. He said that, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here. He said that the thing that's holding up the negotiations with LaFleur and the Packers is money and years. So it sounds like if you're taking what Schefter's presenting at face value, and again, Schefter is tied into Matt LaFleur's agent. Most of the time, the sources in the coaching carousel from Adam Schefter come from the coach's agents, as opposed to Ian Rappaport's reports coming from the teams, because he works for the league and NFL Network. That would make you think that basically Matt LaFleur's agents camp is leaking out information going, they don't want to give us the money we think we're worth or the years, right? So they're, once again, you've got to go back in history. How have the Packers done business when it comes to coaches? They've lowballed, right? We learned that with the 2019 saga with a special teams coordinator that they didn't want to pay the money to. So that kind of the information lines up, if that makes sense. So again, to me, it feels like Matt LaFleur will be back as head coach. Now the big question is Hafley going to get a head coaching job or not, right? Now, the other thing, I was holding out hope. My perfect scenario here, guys, if Jeff Hafley got a head coaching job somewhere, my perfect scenario as a fan is I would want Matt LaFleur, your head coach, okay? I would want Mike McDaniel, your offensive coordinator, and then I would want Brian Flores as your defensive coordinator. Sounds like Brian Flores is not going to be available. To me, when you look at this entire list here, there's one name that pops up 3 times, and that is Brian Flores. Brian Flores is most likely going to get a head coaching job somewhere. So now, if Hafley does leave, do you promote from within for your defensive coordinator, right? That becomes the big question. Well, we've got a guy in-house that other teams are finding value in, and that's DeMarcus Covington, okay? So to me, if you promote from within, you've got 2 options, DeMarcus Covington or Derek Ansley. Both of them have been defensive coordinators before, so they're not completely foreign to that. Both of them has struggled their last year as defensive coordinators. There's no doubt about that. Derek Ansley was with the LA Chargers under Staley. That whole thing got scrapped. That's how we ended up with him as our secondary coach, right? DeMarcus Covington was the defensive coordinator with the Patriots that final year there before Gerard Mayo, I believe it was, Coach Mayo, got let go. So that whole thing got scrapped. That's how we end up with Covington as our defensive line coach. So essentially, you've got, if you're if you're the Packers, you go, okay, what's more important? DeMarcus Covington, I think he's a run game coordinator as well, if I remember correctly. You guys correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. But if he's a run game coordinator and you got Derek Ansley as your pass game coordinator, which one's more important to you? Which coach is better suited? I imagine you would interview from within, but also you probably go outside of the building and start asking around with other potential defensive coordinator candidates as well. And maybe that's holding it up as well. Although that's just, I'm just throwing that out there. There's no reports to suggest it's who Matt LaFleur wants to have as a coordinator. It's will Matt LaFleur give up play calling? All those things that you hear rumored out there. There's no actual reports that's saying that's the case. The only report that's coming out is from Adam Schefter, which seems to be from the coach's agent camp, saying that it's about money and about years, essentially, right? So Tad Samato says, too bad Al Harris is with the Bears. So we now know Tad Samato's burner account is actually my wife, okay, because she's been talking about it all day. I'm not as impressed with Al Harris, okay? The reason I say that is you look at the Bears defense, the only thing they have going for them are takeaways. That's it. Other than that, they are cheeks. We dropped 27 on them in the playoff game. Unfortunately, isn't it ironic that we're talking about potentially replacing Jeff Hafley with somebody, and then we got to look up and go, well, Jeff Hafley gave up 31 points to the Bears in that playoff game, right? So it's like there's some people that are starting to question, is Jeff Hafley really that valuable? I think he is. I think not having Micah Parsons, not having Devontae Wyatt, losing Edgerrin Cooper was huge in that game. I think that played more of a role, that and the fact that your general manager expects you to march out a 7th-round pick and an undrafted free agent and Keyshawn Nixon and Carrington Valentine to be your starting cornerbacks. But then again, he went and got Trayvon Diggs, who played one game for the Packers, looked pretty damn good according to PFF, according to tape, according to statistics. He looked like, okay, this guy is significantly better than the other two corners. And for whatever reason, Jeff Hafley chose not to start him in the game against the Bears. That's not necessarily a positive mark for Hafley. I want to be very clear. I want Jeff Hafley back as a defensive coordinator. No doubt about it, right? So keep all that in mind. But I appreciate the comment there, Tad. You're the man. So, again, yeah, Packers defensive line run game coordinator. So, and Derek Ansley is definitely the pass game coordinator. I feel really, really confident in saying that. I don't think it was anyone else on the staff that was the pass game coordinator. I think it was Derek Ansley. Derek Ansley has a lot of ties, too. He's got ties to Trayvon Diggs. He's got ties to Xavier McKinney. He coached both of those guys in the secondary at Alabama. So there's some cohesiveness, I guess is the right word to say there. So that's kind of how all that shakes out right now. Again, just to confirm, the Dallas Cowboys have requested to interview Packers defensive line coach DeMarcus Covington. I heard that from 3 different sources for their defensive coordinator spot per league sources. If Hafley leaves Green Bay, Covington would be a top candidate to replace him. So got to make a decision, right? First of all, you got to get this freaking contract done with Matt LaFleur. Stop being cheap. Stop dragging your feet. Now, if you're of the opinion in the chat, please hear me out. If you're of the opinion in the chat, and I know you guys are kind of the vocal minority that you don't want Matt LaFleur back. Okay, if you're one of those people, this isn't a shot at you. My stance is simple. If you don't want him as an organization, if you're not willing to pay him market value, then move on. All right, guys, he's open for a trade. We're going to go hire our next head coach. But this whole dragging your freaking feet and trying to decide and this and that, all these pieces are going to start to fall into place, and you're going to miss out on great coaching candidates if you decide to go in a different route. Now, maybe there's a contingency plan in place that if they decide they can't get something done with Matt LaFleur, they trade him, they promote Jeff Hafley to head coach, and now you got to go get your OC. Either way the story falls, right? You've got to – you're going to be behind the 8 ball and behind schedule on hiring your next offensive coordinator, unless you want to promote from within. I don't know about you guys, but I personally don't like the idea of Adam Stenavich being the offensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley being the head coach, and then either DeMarcus Covington or Derek Ansley being promoted to defensive coordinator. To me, that's like a middle-of-the-road situation. I really, really don't like that. So let's see. Billy Packer fan in the chat says, yep, get her done. All right. Stephanie in the chat, Packers organization needs to wake up and pay LaFleur. All right. So, yeah, that's kind of what the chat is saying right now. So that's the latest on Jeff Hafley. And we're going to keep, like I promised you guys at the top here, I'm going to take one last look across the NFL news on social media. Here's the latest news that we're seeing. Pro Football Talk Buccaneers interview Michael Clay, Anthony Levine for special teams coordinator. So nothing major there, right? There's some injury updates for the playoffs. Jason Witten is the new tight ends coach at Wisconsin. Or no, that's Oklahoma. Boy, I'm sorry. I just got y'all's hopes up. I seen red and white, and it's on my timeline. I thought it was Wisconsin. So Jason Witten's the new tight ends coach out in Oklahoma. Nobody cares. Thank y'all for mixing that in. Appreciate you. Tampa with that obviously that interview that we mentioned. Jonathan Gannon interviewing for the Commanders defensive coordinator spot. I'm not a big Jonathan Gannon fan personally. But who knows? Maybe that candidate will pop up in a little bit and somebody could change their mind, right? Yeah. And Nick Sirianni on obviously switching offense coordinators. We have to continue to evolve as an offense. So, yeah, we don't have any other updates, guys. So that's up to date. That's the latest on the Jeff Hafley coaching, whatever you want to call it, the watch, if you will. So stay subscribed to the channel. If anything else comes out here in a little bit, we'll go live again. If any breaking news, if the Matt LaFleur deal gets done, we'll go live immediately. If Jeff Hafley gets a head coaching job somewhere, we'll go live immediately. Any news that breaks, we are on call here at PTA. So make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified when we do go live randomly. May have the guys join us here in a little bit. We're going to keep our finger on the pulse when it comes to this. Now, in the background, what we're doing is we're building our draft board. We've got over 800 prospects on there. We're going to start to whittle that down because some guys are going back to college. We got all the PFF grades in the draft board. What's next is the 25 grades. Right, the 25 big board from PFF that'll go into the equation as well, and then of course, as soon as the national championship is played on Monday night, we'll finalize those. We'll put the consensus big board data in, the early consensus big board data, and then we're on to the East West Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl to get our bonuses there to see which prospects really kind of flash there. In the meantime, we're going to shift gears in between and talk about potential cut candidates as well as restructures here on the channel. So you'll know exactly where the roster stands, how much cap space we got, what's going to get moved around. We'll get your all's take on the live streams as well in terms of who you guys want to keep, who you want to let go. Like some of the names on this potential cut list: Rashawn Gary, Aaron Banks, Elton Jenkins, Trayvon Diggs, Xavier McKinney's on the list for a restructure. We're not cutting X. Okay. Josh Jacobs, restructure. We're not cutting Josh Jacobs. Heard some people say earlier today, actually it was yesterday, Josh Jacobs on the chopping block. What the hell are we talking about? Are we being serious right now? Watch them cut them, and I look like a moron here in a month, right? Nate Hobbs, another one, Keyshawn Nixon, Brandon McManus, all those guys. We'll talk about how much money you can potentially save by cutting one or two of them, maybe three of them, and how you can restructure contracts to get yourself in a position to where you can maybe be a little bit active in free agency as well. So, guys, stay tuned to the channel. Hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon. My name's Clayton. This is PTA. Go Pack Go.
Here we go.
We're out.
Bye, guys.